When meeting a student in your office for the first time, or meeting new students in the hallway or locations where you have, an important thing to do is go ahead and establish that sense of rapport by asking questions. Now, questions are an important part of what it is that we do as a teacher because it allows us to come to a better understanding of what the problems may be, who our students are, and what we can do to help them solve their problems. It allows them to establish a connection with us. It allows them to establish communications with us on a personal level, and it allows them to begin to trust and to trust us and to trust us with their issues and to trust us with helping them to solve these issues. When you ask questions and begin building that trust, you also begin letting people know that you are interested. You are interested in them, and you're interested in their best interests. Questions demonstrate our willingness to learn more about the student and to understand their needs and their wants as we begin to find out what their problems are and how we can help solve those. Bear in mind that not every problem has a solution. One of the issues that many men seem to fall into is that women occasionally, and men too, would just like someone to hear that they have a problem and tell them that it's bad and move on. Having a problem doesn't mean that a solution is imminently next in line. For instance, your problem may be that you have shoes that are too tight and you don't have enough money to get a new pair. There's really no solution to that. You just tell them you're really sorry that happens. You know what it's like when it happened to you, maybe, or you know that can be a real terrible pain. Listening to student problems is a nice way to show that you are listening. Maybe that's all they really need is someone to listen. But listening to problems is also a great way of showing that you care. Because you do care. You do care about their problems. And many times, just having someone listen to your problems can be a way of getting right on the road to success. It opens the door for solutions. It gives them a chance to feel like they are being heard and that their opinions matter and that their problems are real problems, not to be poo-pooed. Students may often feel like their problem is a unique problem that has never been had before because it's often never happened to them. But if you're a seasoned teacher, you may have seen problems just like this come and problems just like this go. It may be a problem that you yourself have had and conquered, or had and not been able to conquer. As such, understand that by listening to a student issue, really listening, you're giving them a chance to understand. Understand that they're being heard, understand that solutions exist, and understand, most importantly, that they're not alone. This can be especially difficult if the student who is talking to you about their problem began by exploding or began by telling you that you were the problem. In many cases, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. But it is important that as a teacher, don't take it personally and listen to what the real problem happens to be. When you find a student has an issue where they're yelling at you, chances are very likely that they're really angry at something else, but that this was the last issue, the last straw. So take that to heart. When someone has a problem or an issue or they've exploded at you, just remember, they may have had a really bad moment there. They may have had a bad day. They may have had a bad week. They may have had a bad month. This may be a terrible year for them. They may have lost somebody. They may have lost a best friend or someone very close to them. A time in their life that they have really treasured may have come to a close, or they may find that someone that they've loved deeply and dearly no longer wants to be part of their life. So when you're hearing them talk about the troubles that they are having, don't write them off. Just understand that they're a person too, just like you. Allow yourself to have that expansion and recognize that if you start to see that they're a person just like you, and they have bad days and you have bad days, but they have a problem right now and they're willing to talk about that problem right now. If you can see them as an individual human, if you can see them as a real person with a real problem, you'll find that you can approach that subject with empathy. And as soon as you can approach a subject with empathy, you'll find that it begins to have a touch and have a mark on every interaction that you have. And soon you're communicating much more clearly, much more closely to heart, and you're willing to care more. And that's a great thing. But people will find that once you're willing to help them with their problems, or that they respect you enough to bring their problems to you and you've heard them, sometimes asking some questions is a great way for everybody to stay or remain or be on the same page. So go ahead and become a curious questioner. Ask those questions that will help people come to a more fuller communication. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to walk them down the primrose path with a series of pointed questions that's going to lay the fault bare, and it doesn't mean that you have to ask a question that is so probing that they may not want to ask. But on the other hand, you don't have to ask a question so blatant and obvious that everyone knows, and it seems like you're leading them to a solution. Instead, consider asking questions that involve both emotion and logic. Ask questions that are both thinking and feeling questions. Open-ended questions which allows the student to really think about what it is that they're saying and what the problem really is and what kind of real-life practical solutions may be open and available to them. A good example of this is after the student has told you something, you could just say simply, well, how do you feel about that? Because then you'll get to know what they really think when they tell you what they feel. Solutions which appeal to emotion will make the student consider their options but take action now. Solutions which involve logic will make them consider what they've done down the line and put it in terms of how they have justified the process that they've undergone. For instance, if a student tells you they have to make a decision versus whether they're going to stay up late and work on a project, or whether they're going to ask for an additional shift at work so that they can make some more money, it eventually is going to come down to a question of hearts versus minds. How is it going to make you feel if you got a lower grade than you wanted because you just didn't have a few extra hours to work? On the other hand, how is it going to make you feel if you miss out on $24? Students may quickly find that an extra 2 or 3 hours work on a project to get a great grade and a fine portfolio piece will far outweigh an additional $20. On the other hand, if they're looking at being put out on the street because they don't have enough money for rent, an additional $24 is looking pretty darn good, whereas a grade of a C when they could have gotten a B or an A that's something they can probably live with. When you are speaking with the student or the person with an issue, it's a good idea to ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are the most valuable kind that you can get. A closed-ended question is one that belongs with yes or no, I don't know, or a certain number. How many shoes do you have at home? That's a very closed question. How many miles did you drive today? That's a closed question. Would you prefer to go to pizza or Mexican food? That's a closed-ended question. A good open-ended question is one in which the answer could be anything. I see that you wear a lot of high-heeled shoes. Why do you do that? Or, every day when you come to my class, you're a little bit late. Would it be easier for you if we worked out some kind of a system where I could put some information before you the night before, give you more homework? That's a terrible open-ended question. I don't know why I said that. A good open-ended question might be, which industry do you prefer to work in? Whereas a closed question might be, do you prefer to be a graphic designer or a web designer? A nice open-ended question is, do you know where you're going to go after college? A closed-ended question is, do you think after college you will be transferring to a four-year school? So think more about the open-ended questions, which will tell us more about the student, more about their hopes and dreams, and more about how we can help them solve the problems that they have. Closed-ended questions really are more towards facts, and you will probably not need to do that much fact gathering. Chances are very likely if the student approaches you with a problem, they will tell you the fact up front. Open-ended question allows you to get more in the mindset of the individual, allows you to get more of their thoughts and feelings. But you can also ask reflective questions, such as, tell me more about that, or how did you feel when? Or how will it impact... Holy shit, what's happening up here? How will it impact your post-graduation opportunities if you were to see some kind of a terrible crash going on? I don't know what's happening, but I don't like it not one bit, sir. Okay, looks like it's open up there. What's going on? Reflective questions like this will allow the student to elaborate on the problems or the issues or where they see the future of the problem or issue. That makes them extremely valuable. You can also ask direct examination questions. These sound kind of like lawyerly stuff, but it is something which you can quickly use to get students into an agreement mode, such as, you're going to have your work turned in on time, aren't you? Or, you're going to be able to get that printed? Or, you are going to be in class this week, right? Will you still be able to purchase the prints needed for this class? Hopefully, you should, like any good lawyer, be able to know the answer to the question you are asking before you ask it. This helps the student get into a mode of agreement where they know the answer should be yes or should be no. And so, as soon as you ask one of these questions, which hopefully in our case will be an agreement-related question, you'll know that they're going to say the right thing. Alright, I don't know where we're going to go, so we're going to go on the right. By getting them to agree to something you want them to agree to, they will begin, oh my lord, what are we having here? They will begin agreeing to things. And as soon as they begin agreeing, then you guys can be of the same opinion. And once you are agreeing the same thing, of the same opinion, the answers will become clear. Now, it may be that they say no, at which point it's probably time for you to check your head. You could be heavily incorrect. To apply this knowledge today, write down a few questions you might ask to a student who is new or who has a problem. Make sure that you have a few of these broad questions that are easy to work with. Look at them and see how easy they would be in a thought experiment. So for instance, a student is having a problem, you pull them into the hallway to talk. One of the first questions you might say is everything okay? How's everything going today? How's your semester shaping up? Questions like these are relatively easy to work with, relatively open-ended. They keep the student focused on answering good questions with clear, strong answers, and allows them the ability to come up with multiple answers to an open-ended question. I hope you've enjoyed this. By all means, please subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future podcasts. Make sure that you share this with any like-minded individuals you have out there that you think could benefit from this. Go ahead and blow up that like button, and by all means, please, design your future.